me know when we're going live so I can plug in. Tom, just do this to me, all right? Hey, if you're just showing up, we are opening it up here. Basically, like we just invited you into the worship space. We're going to go live here. We're going to start the worship service in about 2 minutes. Showing up, we're inviting you into the worship space right now. We're going to go live here in just a minute to Facebook, or at least we're going to try. And we're going to start the worship service at 1 o'clock. Friends, my name is Jeremy. Welcome to Sycamore Creek Church. From my house to yours, we welcome you as we celebrate and worship God on an online platform. We're thrilled that you're here as we debut a brand new series this morning called Growing Young, where we're exploring how do we grow young as a church and not old like most churches. And we hope and pray that this morning's online platform will allow you not only to an opportunity to watch, but ultimately to worship. What we're going to do right now is we are going to sing a song, and this song is a song that we do at Sycamore Creek on a regular basis. It's a song about worshiping God and recognizing that God is always present, whether things are going well in life or not. Will you sing along? in time, looking just how far you've come, knowing that for every step you were with us, kneeling on this battleground, seeing just how much you've done, knowing every victory was your plow in us. Scars and struggles on the way, but with hearts our hearts can say, yes, our hearts can say. Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did you leave us on our own. You are faithful, God, you are faithful. Kneeling on this battleground, seeing just how much you've done, knowing every victory is your power in us. Scars and struggles on the way, but with joy our hearts can say, yes, our hearts can say. Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did you leave us on our own. You are faithful, God, you are faithful, you are. You are faithful, God, you are faithful. Scars and struggles on the way, but with joy our hearts can say, never once did we ever walk alone. Carried by your constant grace, held within your perfect peace. Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did you leave us on our own. You are faithful, God, you are faithful. Every step we are breathing in your grace. Evermore we'll be breathing out your praise. You are faithful, God, you are faithful, you are. You are faithful, God, you are faithful, you are. You are faithful, God, you are faithful, you are. You are faithful, God, you are faithful. You are.
Well, peace, friends. This is Pastor Tom, and I am glad to be with you all here. I see a lot of you have joined us on Zoom, and we were successful at live streaming it to Facebook, so many people are over there on Facebook as well. Well, we're in really unique times, but there's also a lot of unique opportunities in this time as well. Unique opportunities to connect with God, unique opportunities to love our neighbor. Today we have with us a special guest. He was actually supposed to be with us 2 weeks ago. His name is Bob Trout, and Bob is an infection preventionist at Sparrow Hospital. And Bob was supposed to be with us 2 weeks ago to give us a little bit of an update on what was happening with the coronavirus or COVID-19. And he actually got sick. This was back when we were still doing the live worship service at the building and just broadcasting it from there. Bob, you had a test though to check and see if you had COVID-19. What
Yes,
were
and I'm
the
all set.
results?
I am negative, so all I have is a bad cold, or I might have gotten actually the flu. There's people who gotten vaccinated actually can still get the flu, another type of strain of flu, or I might have just gotten a cold.
Okay. Well, are you feeling better now?
I'm much better, thank you.
You're much better now. Very good. Very good. So Thanks for bringing your face mask there. We didn't want to get sick from you across this live interactive worship service.
I can clarify that we do not pass coronavirus or COVID-19 through the internet. So that's something you don't have to worry about.
Thank you. That's one less thing we need to worry about today.
Sure.
Hey, tell us a little bit about, you haven't been actually at Sparrow Hospital because you've been quarantined at home, I think, while you were getting done.
Right.
Is that true?
That's true. I was working at home. I did go in Friday for a little bit, but I was trying to keep up on everything.
Yeah. So just give us a feel. I mean, we hear a lot about how things are going. Like when I'm listening to NPR, I hear about it nationwide, but what does it look like from the local hospital?
From the hospital, it's pretty intense. Everybody that is working on anything is working on the COVID-19, and they're working to try to make sure we have enough beds for everybody. We need to make sure we are actually, some of the new things that have come out recently is since Detroit area is overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients, we're trying to make plans for pulling non-COVID-19 patients from those other areas to free up beds for those folks there. We've limited pretty much all the visitation. All staff are wearing these masks whenever they're at work now. We're trying to simply keep everybody as safe as possible while being able to keep the work going on and the important work that's going on there at the hospital.
What's the sense right now at this point of where we're at? The way I understood it as I've listened to the news is we were either going to get this big...
Tom, don't touch your face there. You're not supposed to touch your face.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm watching.
Thanks, Bob, for reminding me of that.
Okay.
So we were either on this big slope with a lot coming up, or we were going to flatten it out.
We're not flattening out yet.
Where are we at?
We are still going straight up. Essentially, we have a lot of people out there that have gotten the COVID-19, and a lot of people that have probably been exposed, and we're waiting for those people to be tested. And as we get more and more testing that comes out, we're going to find more and more and more people that actually have it. Hopefully, we'll have people like me that aren't sick, or people that that do have COVID-19 that are simply staying home, are getting better by themselves, because 80% of the people really do just stay home, get better, and don't have any trouble. But we're still finding lots and lots of cases.
Remind us again of those statistics. You said 80% of people do what? 80%
of the people get sick, but they can stay home, not needing medications, just get rest, stay away from people. About 15, 16, 70% of the people do have to go into the hospital and get treated and are pretty sick. And then there are those people that do pass away from it. But those are mostly the people who are very sick or very old. Those are anybody who's older than me.
Yeah. So how can we as a church be perhaps supporting or praying for the health workers in our local community right now?
Well, I think really the biggest thing that we can do is stay healthy yourself. So, you can pray for everybody. There are people who are making these cloth masks at home. There are people that are, but if you simply stay away from other people as much as possible, that's going to help us not have nearly as many people coming into the hospital. And we're hopefully going to be able to get through this as best as possible. It's just too darn tough right now to predict how it's going to go. But if everybody can stay themselves and send out postcards to people, or send out notes, or give people a call, all those things are very supportive.
Yeah.
When I was sick, I had a half a dozen people call me up, including you, Tom. Thank you. They asked how I was doing, and it really was wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah. I see Amanda, who we had on last week, Dr. Shoemaker, has left a comment here just saying, stay home.
Right.
Thank you, Amanda, for reminding us of that. Hey, we want to take just some time to pray for the situation that we find ourselves in right now. And Jeremy's going to play a little bit in the background, but what I want you to do actually is, instead of me praying, I want to give you the participant here. You're not just watching, you're worshiping. And I want to give you the chance to type a prayer in the comments section, okay? So while Jeremy plays, type a prayer in the chat. All right, here we go.
Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did you leave us on our own. You are faithful, God. You are faithful. You are faithful, God. You are faithful. Scars and struggles on the way, but with joy our hearts can say, never once did we ever walk alone. Carried by your constant grace, held within your perfect peace. Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did we ever walk alone. Never once did you leave us on our own. You are faithful, God, you are faithful. Every step we are breathing in your grace. Evermore we'll be breathing out your praise. You are faithful, God, you are faithful, you are. You are faithful, God, you are faithful, you are. You are faithful, God, you are faithful, you are. You are faithful, God, you are faithful. And all who agreed said, Amen.
Amen. Amen. Hey friends, we have been busy reinventing what it means to do church and to be church. And one of the ways that we've been doing that is by creating this daily-ish podcast called Our Daily Shelter. While we are sheltering in place, we also, as Psalm 91 says, shelter under the glory or the power of the Most High. And so each day, as we're going in this shelter in place, we're doing this. It's a daily live podcast, video podcast, where we're exploring and interviewing different experts and about a particular topic or situation that we find ourselves in this time of sheltering in place. And we've already got this whole next week scheduled, and we're super excited to share that with you. Sent this out in an email. Mark Opperly is going to kick it off on Monday. He is our pastor at our Potterville campus, but he was formerly a scientist. And so we're going to look at understanding the science of COVID-19. Kevin Fitton on Tuesday, who is our worship leader out there, but he was also a former church planner, is going to look at spiritual formation. On Wednesday, engaging the media storm. Sarah Ashman is a media literacy expert and teacher at Holt High School. We're going to have Bishop Bard with us on Thursday to look at a view of the church from 10,000 feet. And on Saturday, Rebecca DeYoung is going to join us again. She is the author of Glittering Vices, the book that we've been focused on looking at the 7 deadly sins in the last series that we ended last Sunday. And we're going to take a look at what the 7 deadly sins and a study of that can do to help us in this time. So You'll find that you can log into that every single day. We live stream it, but you can also join on Zoom at sycamorecreekchurch.org/ODS. We're trying to make those links really simple. Of course, because of what's happened in this shelter in place that we're in, we're also changing Easter. I find it funny that we picked this image, spring break in Michigan. We picked that months ago because you never know what spring break is actually going to be like, and it could be snowy. But this is not the spring break that any of us expected coming up in a week or so. But we have a lot of really creative opportunities to celebrate Easter, and one of our staff is going to be posting a link to all of those things in the chat section for our Easter celebrations. But you'll want to be just stay in touch. There are a lot of things that we are still able to do in unique ways and creative ways to celebrate Easter. You found yourself here at a church that meets in a lot of different places. And of course, today we're meeting online, but we would love to connect with you. And usually we're handing out a physical connection card, but today we want to introduce you to a digital connection card. It's sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. And that link is going to be here in the comments section, in the chat section in just a minute. You can do all the normal stuff that you can do with a Connect card, you can do with this digital Connect card. You can take next steps, you can submit prayer requests, and you can just a way for us to keep up with each other. It's a discipleship tool. So I hope that you would connect with us through the connection card so that we can connect with you in the coming weeks. There's lots of other ways that you can connect as well. We especially want to encourage you to consider sending in prayer requests, prayers at sycamorecreekchurch.org. You can do those on the connection card, but you can also email them in at any point that you want. Be sure to download our app because there's a lot of great opportunities there. You search for SCCMI in the App Store. And then you all have found the worship today, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but we've made this really simple link that you can follow, sycamorecreekchurch.org/South Lansing worship. That'll get you to this Zoom event. Of course, don't forget to download that app. Lots of great opportunities there. You can submit prayer requests. You can listen to old sermons, catch up. You can give online and through the app. Lots of great spaces there. Today, we are starting a new series. It's called Growing Young. And in this series, we are going to be taking a look at churches that grow young, and they connect with the ages 15 to 29. There is a group out in California called the Fuller Youth Institute that has been studying these churches. What is it that they do that connects them with that age group from 15 to 29? Because a lot of churches, there's just a big gap, like basically from like birth up until retirement. And Sycamore Creek isn't one of those. We have a nice wide spectrum, but we can always connect even more fully with this age group, 15 to 29. What they found was that there were 6 core commitments that churches made that helped them to grow young, to reach that age group 15 to 29. The first one, which we're going to take a look at today, is Keychain leadership, and I'm not going to go into that very much because our speaker today, our teacher, is going to hit on that. But the second one is empathy, empathizing with young people rather than being in a position of judgment or criticism. The third core commitment of churches that are growing young is an unapologetic focus on Jesus' message. This isn't a watered down message that's reaching this age group, but it's a message that's inviting people to really take that commitment of following Jesus, his message, seriously. Next week, we're going to do 1 week just on warm relationships. Warm is the new cool. Even though it's cool to be in all this technological stuff, if your church isn't a place of warm community, you're not going to connect with those 15 to 29-year-olds. Churches that are growing young are prioritizing young people and young families everywhere across the whole church. And then lastly, the 6th commitment is that they are the best neighbors. They, again, don't stand in a position of judgment against the community, but rather a position of compassion. And of course, we at your church try to value being curious, creative, and compassionate, being the best possible neighbors that we can be. And so over these next 2 weeks, we're going to hit on 2 of those, Keychain leadership and a warm community. But today, I'm super excited to have as our guest speaker, Dale Williams. Dale is the is on my preaching and pastor mentor group. Back when I asked him to preach this message, he probably didn't expect or anticipate he would be doing it from his computer in his kitchen. But Dale, I'm excited particularly because Dale is a 26-year-old, so he is one of these young people that this research is really all about. And when I was thinking about this series many months ago, I thought, you know what, let's start by giving the microphone to somebody in this group that we're trying to reach. So Dale's message today is going to begin with a video, and this is a video that the Fuller Youth Institute put together that's really kind of a confession, first and foremost, about how bad churches have been when it comes to connecting with young people. Watch and listen.
To all the young people wounded by our churches, forgive us. Forgive us for our broken institutions. Forgive us for our broken relationships. Forgive us for all the ways you felt abandoned, like you didn't belong. Forgive us for our attempts to control, our refusal to listen. Forgive us for our fear of questions and love of certainty. Forgive us for our judgment, for withholding grace. Forgive us for hiding our failures, our stories, our hearts. Forgive us. We believe in new beginnings. We believe mending wounds takes time, but is worth every second. We believe we are better together. We believe in you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Peace to you all. My name is Dale Williams, and I'm a member of the Preaching Mentor Group, and I am delighted to be teaching my first solo message this morning. I wasn't expecting to teach it from my kitchen, and I wasn't expecting to not be able to see everyone out there, but I'm glad to be here with all of you, wherever you are watching this from. So shortly after moving to Lansing, my college semester was ending and I was stuck with the age-old issue of needing a summer job. I'd sent applications out across the region, but it seemed like I was either underqualified for any substantial job or overqualified for any traditional summer job. One day, I was speaking with a theater friend who had been my director for my first show in the Lansing area earlier in the year. When I told her of my predicament, she offered me two positions, a summer camp assistant and a set builder for the summer show. I jumped at both opportunities. By the end of the summer, I committed to working each show during the coming year as the set crew leader, except for one show, which was the show I was given the chance to be the director. The next summer, I was leading summer camps, and in the past years, I've continued to work time and time again with All of Us Express Children's Theater because of the faith and trust that was put in me continuously. That friend and mentor took a risk multiple times, and it helped me reach a greater potential. I don't work every show with All of Us Express anymore, but I still direct with them. I was directing there before this pandemic started, and I always look forward to my next project with them. Here's a photo that was taken with a class I recently taught that ended in January. When I started writing this message, I even had to take a second to message my friend and thank her again for trusting me with the keys of leadership within that theater. And this isn't the only opportunity where I've been given the keys of leadership. Today, I've been given the opportunity to grow because Pastor Tom shared the keys of leadership within the church with me. Now, I've experienced a sense of calling to ministry from a young age. Unfortunately, I grew up in a church that didn't have a whole lot of opportunities for me to grow and explore that calling. Those who held the keys of leadership held them tightly and certainly weren't going to share them with a young person in any substantial manner. For various reasons, the previous example among them, I haven't been back to that church since I was a teenager. And I ignored that calling until just last year when I sat down and talked with Pastor Tom about how I'd been feeling God leading me. Unlike the church I grew up in, Pastor Tom started to trust me, one metaphorical key at a time. I was invited to join a mentor group, then I preached a sermon with him, and now I'm preaching this message on my own. Pastor Tom has put the trust in me that has pushed me down the path towards where I know God wants me to be. Now, based on those two stories, you've probably gathered that we'll be discussing the idea of keychain leadership, trusting others with responsibilities of leadership, the keys, and how it allows our church to grow young are the themes we'll be hitting on this morning. I think there is one example where most, but not all of us, can relate to when it comes to this idea of keychain leadership. And that is when one of your parents, relatives, or maybe even a friend tosses you the keys to drive the car for the first time. Now, when you're getting the keys, it feels wonderful. However, when you're giving up the keys, you probably hope it doesn't go something like this.
Wow, I still can't believe this sale. 6,000 low-fold dispenser napkins for $58? What are they thinking?
I don't know.
Yeah, and they're 2-ply. This is a great day. A really great day. Wow, look how big and empty the parking lot is, huh? What do you say you get behind the wheel?
What would I do behind the wheel?
Drive.
Is that legal?
Well, no, but my father let me drive when I was about your age. Call it a perk for running errands with your dad.
Let's make this kitty purr.
Well, go ahead, try a turn. Tina, why are you groaning? You're doing fine. Tina, relax. Easy, easy. Okay. Tina, you're kind of headed toward the only other car in the lot. You have plenty of time to turn, Tina, so just go ahead. Turn one way or the other. You're just swerving back and forth. Turn one way and stick with it, Tina. Tina, for the love of God, turn away or stop. The brakes, Tina, on the left. You're about to hit that car. The brakes, hit the brakes. Oh, my God, it's bad.
I ruined the car.
You did. You really did. Okay. Well, that's... at least there doesn't seem to be any damage to the other car.
No, I see a dent. There's a dent.
That's a ding, not even. It's like a little scratch.
No, it's a dent.
All right, we'll leave a note. You know, then again, for all we know, that probably was there, right?
We have to leave a note. We have to leave a note.
Okay. You're so honest. Who raised you?
I don't know.
It was me. I did.
So hopefully this isn't what happens when we trust someone with the keys of leadership. Unfortunately, the prevailing fear is that if we let go of the keys, then disaster could happen. And if we hold on to that fear, it could make us hesitant to share those keys. We then run into the problem. How do we stave off those worries and share leadership with our next generation so our community thrives? In addition to a fear of letting go, there's also a mistrust of younger generations. A generational mistrust is hardly a new issue. Amanda Ruggery, writing for the BBC, notes that throughout the centuries, the up-and-coming generation is always just kind of seen as terrible. She took this quote from the Daily Mail in 2016 saying, "The tragic truth is that America's millennials are a bunch of phone-addicted, selfie-obsessed, hashtagging, Snapchatting, kale-munching, twerking, lazy whining, ill-informed, politically correct, cosseted narcissists who find absolutely everything mortally offensive and believe there are 165 ways to sexually identify." She also found a similar tone in the Hull Daily Mail in 1925, which wrote, "We defy anyone who goes about with his eyes open to deny that there is, as never before, an attitude on the part of young folk which is best described as grossly thoughtless, rude, and utterly selfish." It was 1925. Very, very similar tone, almost 100 years apart. Now, this goes back quite a ways, too. Here is a summary of general complaints about the youth written by essayist Kenneth John Freeman in 1907. He writes, "The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children are now tyrants, not the servants of their household. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up dainties at the table, cross their legs, and tyrannize their teachers." And while 1907 might not be too far back, Kenneth John Freeman here was summarizing complaints by the Greeks of Socrates' time over 2,400 years ago.
Heyo.
So generational mistrust and mistrust of that younger generation is nothing new. I mean, we have examples of 2,400 years of it. And it can also go the other way too. Younger generations can get in the mindset that those generations above them are mistrusting, out of touch, and aloof. And when younger generations start to operate from that assumption, they can start to get dismissive. For example, how many of you have ever been told, "Okay, boomer"? I got okayed boomered for the first time a few months back by someone 2 years younger than me, and it hurt.
I haven't had that happen to me yet. I'm still an okay Gen Xer.
I haven't got that yet either. But Dale, how is it that you're like 15?
I'm 26. So I'd like to open this up for a little bit of discussion here. I'd like to know where you have seen examples of generational mistrust in your own life. And do you think these assumptions we make are fair to older or younger generations?
All right, we're going to bring back in everybody who's on the call here. And also, if you are in the attendance, in the attendees, and you'd like to join the video conversation, there's a little digital hand you can raise. And if you raise that hand, then I will see it and perhaps bring you into the video conversation as well. All right, so Jeremy, Gretchen, Angela, Bob, you want to go ahead and start talking about this question?
Yeah, for me as an older millennial, I get really irritated when I get lumped in with other millennials because of those comments that Dale was reading. I'm like, I am not that, so don't call me that. It makes me really mad.
To be fair, neither are we.
Well, I agree with you.
I brought Mary Ellen in. She raised her hand. Mary, you have an answer for this question?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yeah.
Okay. I have a video, but it's on my phone, so you don't have to put me in on video. Well, the interesting thing for me that I wanted to ask about was when I was working part-time after I retired, I have young people that don't think that I know how to use technology, and actually I'm quite good with technology. Probably not as good as the young people because they're real fast, but I can figure out things pretty easily with technology, and I sometimes don't like it when people think I don't know anything about it. So that's, I guess, a comment more than a question. Maybe the question is, how can you help me to change that misperception among young people?
Hey, I brought Tom in. Tom, you had your hand raised. You want to answer this question?
Yes, that working with college students, MSU and some LCC students, I see a lot of these ways that the college students are looked down on by many people within churches and in the society. And also I see from the students a bit of mistrust of people who won't listen to them. And I hear some of these kind of comments that were mentioned, that we don't listen, we're stubborn. And I've had others say that they like it when people, no matter what the age, will actually listen to them and try to understand their way of looking at things and be able to willing to learn from them. So I think that's me. I see these assumptions that Dale mentioned are not really fair. They're not accurate. They might be there's always, every generation has some people that would fit that description.
Yeah. It seems to me that a lot of this hinges on that there are some differences in culture and so on, and that those differences breed mistrust. In that they're certainly millennials are going to be more engaged digitally than boomers are, or maybe the silent generation. But it's really that distrust that is the problem. Hey, Dale, why don't you take it back?
All right. So I'd like to thank everyone for their comments and those of you who jumped in on the panel discussion with us. So moving forward, we have a fear of letting go and a generational mistrust that adds up ultimately to a fear of failure on multiple levels. Those age-old questions of, are they ready, from one end, and am I ready on the other? This fear is being compounded by another issue. How can we trust young people in the church and help them grow when young people are leaving the church? Well, why are they leaving the church? A study I found showed that when it comes to the reasons why young people left the church, 29% said they didn't feel connected. This is more than young people leaving because of disagreement on political or social issues, which is often the reason suggested. The only reason that was larger is because they went to college and just stopped going. Now, since young people don't feel connected, they don't feel invested. Maybe if we invest a key or two earlier on, they're more likely to feel like a valuable participant in the body of Christ. But if they aren't sticking around long enough to invest those keys, we may start to think, is it worth it when it might not work out? We've identified a few tough issues here. One's not easily solved. The best idea now is to turn to Scripture to help us answer how we can put trust in people, especially young people, to lead, even despite our fears and or their failures. We're going to be looking at John 21:15 through 19. Now, a bit of backstory up to this point. During the lead up to Christ's crucifixion, it was correctly predicted that Peter would deny Jesus 3 times. This had been eating away at Peter, who had wept bitterly upon realizing he had denied Christ, and he'd been feeling terrible ever since. However, this isn't the end for Peter as a disciple or a next generation leader. Peter clearly made a mistake. He fails. He fails badly enough that were I in his shoes, I wouldn't expect Jesus to acknowledge me. Truly, I'd expect him to deny me the same way I denied him. So what did Jesus do with Peter's failure? After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus said. A third time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. He said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep. I tell you the truth, when you were young, you were able to do as you liked. You dressed yourself and went wherever you wanted to go. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and others will dress you and take you where you don't want to go." Jesus said this to let him know by what kind of death he would glorify God. Then Jesus told him, "Follow me." quite a far cry from denying Peter and chastising him for his failure in leadership, we instead see Jesus do three things here. First, he invites Peter to continue his mission and feed and take care of his lambs and sheep. Second, he reminds Peter that there is work to be done beyond his mistakes and more to come in his walk with Christ. Finally, Jesus chooses Peter despite his mistakes. Jesus handed Peter the keys without hesitation because he knew the leader that Peter would become in the church, putting aside what fear may have been there. Peter goes on to be the rock that Jesus knew him to be from the beginning, living and ultimately dying for Christ and spreading his message throughout the world. Jesus was a Keychain leader who trusted his keys to Peter, and look at where the church is now. So here is where the challenge comes for us. I want you to think about how young people are being invited to be more involved in the church. Do they feel connected, trusted, and like they have a vested interest or voice in the church? And what are we doing to ensure those things? So I'm going to open this back up to a panel discussion.
All right, friends. So if you are interested in joining in the conversation, you can raise your digital hand there. And I also notice, Gretchen, that people have been commenting in the chat section. So even maybe you want to pull out some of those comments for the past question. If you want to raise your hand, we'll invite you into the conversation. Jeremy's got his hand up. It's not a virtual hand, but it's a real hand.
So I saw on Instagram this morning that 9 months from now, after this quarantine, there's going to be a new generation called the Coronials.
You know what, friends? I can mute him, and I can also turn off his video, which we can't usually do on Sunday morning. But yeah.
So Chrissy Brokenshire commented on Facebook that I thought was really helpful. She said, the crazy thing is that we, in trying to correct what we believe are shortcomings of the previous generation, often bring about what we believe are shortcomings of the next generation.
There's a kind of humility there, right? Like no generation is perfect, but every generation has has a set of gifts, which reminds me of something one of my mentors used to tell me, that every person is radically gifted and radically flawed. And I wonder if that doesn't apply as well to whole generations. Every generation is radically gifted and radically flawed. I see Barb Flory raising her hand. She is the matriarch of our church, so we probably better have her join here because she founded this church. And Barb, would you have ever imagined that the church you founded would be sitting here online doing this church digitally?
I just wanted to comment on the importance of the style of worship to attracting young people. When churches insist on the old hymns and that whole style of worship, that they feel left out. And that's one of the things that you do well at SCC. You keep it current. Young people walk in and they say, oh, they understand me here.
Yeah. Well, you got us going in the right direction, Barb. Thank you for starting this church, and we're seeing kind of new fruit of it today. Barb, one of the things that struck me as we've been doing this online church is a lot of the younger generation have said that they just love the chat that goes on along the side in comments or in Facebook, and they're like, can we have this sort of feature every single Sunday morning?
Cool.
And so, that added to music now perhaps needs to be a social media stream that young folks can connect with each other digitally, even right in the live worship service.
Yes. Excellent.
Thanks for joining us, Barb.
Yep.
So we're running out of time here, but we're gonna let Dale keep us moving forward.
So maybe you're sitting there thinking, I don't know the young people in the church or how they feel. Maybe you're thinking, I'd like to see the keys passed my way in an area or two, but I'm not a young person. These are good questions, and it's good to ask these because Keychain leadership isn't just young people in preaching, but other areas and ages. Sure, it can be people like me being trusted with a message. It can be letting teenage volunteers lead from time to time, serving under them rather than making them always the ones who serve. It can extend upwards to handing the keys to our older partners who want to lead a small group or retreat. How do we as a church embody the Keychain leadership model? It doesn't have to be a big deal, but a practice of trust. We can hand someone the keys when they want to come in and clean on the weekend, trusting them. Well, once the building opens back up, of course. We can hand someone the keys when they want to explore a new way to be involved. That isn't to say we're just tossing people keys whenever they ask, but we are investing in them beyond the fear of what happens if it fails. We instead must focus on the greatness of God that comes when they succeed. All of us, in one way or another, are leaders in the church and in our own lives. In becoming Keychain leaders, we must first identify where on the continuum we are in becoming that Keychain leader. First up is the keyless leader. The keyless leader may be a new leader, whether because of age or experience level, trying to prove themselves and earn those new keys. In a similar vein, the keyless leader may be a longtime churchgoer who made a mistake long ago and feels they lost their access to any more or any new keys. Next up, we have the key hoarding leader. Now, the key hoarding leader has the keys but refuses to give them away. This isn't always done through ill intent. Sure, there are more than a few leaders that refuse to hand out keys because they think others will make mistakes, and it might cause more trouble than had they just done it themselves. On the other hand, a key hoarding leader could be someone super passionate and outgoing and still trying to prove themselves. So the keys get held tightly because this is their moment to lead and shine. Next up, we have the key loaning leader. Now, the key loaning leader will give out keys, but make sure they get returned as soon as possible. They offer a chance to let others lead, but they snatch back those keys if things get a little shaky. They might also think that they'll do it better than others, or others might make mistakes. They wouldn't, but they also understand the importance of contributing. So they hand out the keys for a bit just to keep people involved enough. Finally, we get to Keychain leaders. Now, Keychain leaders are very aware of the keys they hold and the importance of entrusting those keys when people are ready. These leaders seem to make everyone else involved better leaders. They aren't stingy with the keys and they don't ask for them back without a good reason. If you are involved with the church in some capacity, you can often point back to this person as the reason you kept growing and kept being involved, and you wouldn't be the only one. Like Jesus trusting Peter with the keys to leading the church, Keychain leaders look beyond the mistakes and fears into the greatness of what will be. Personally, I wholeheartedly think that we as a church have some great Keychain leaders. I can point to Tom, Jeremy, and Gretchen and identify the ways they have trusted me with keys and helped me grow. However, do we as a church overall practice Keychain leadership? Well, to answer that, we have to point to what a church practicing Keychain leadership looks like and what Keychain leaders look like and what they do differently, and a church that does these things, how it looks. And the first thing we see with that is they are mature, not always young. Developing leadership isn't an overnight process. You can't just see a young person or any person and throw keys at them hoping they'll be successful and involved. You have to nurture and cultivate them into the leader they'll become. I'll use the process I've been on as an example of this nurturing scaffolding that has surrounded the entirety of what has led me to today in the Pastor Preaching Mentor group. First was joining this group, then came sharing my Jesus story. Following that was meeting monthly to learn about preaching and theology, watching videos of preaching, meeting to work on a tag team sermon, practicing that tag team sermon ahead of time, preaching the tag team sermon, and then watching video of that tag team sermon. And this was over the course of months. And when it came time to move on to the next phase, the cultivation included meeting to work on a solo sermon, writing a manuscript and getting feedback, preaching the solo sermon ahead of time to the mentor group for feedback, and where we are right now, preaching the sermon. And again, this process was more months of work. And
Dale,
then
I can't believe that you stuck through all that. Did we really do all those steps?
We did that, and not only that, but we do more, because after this, the process still continues with watching videos afterwards of the sermon, and then helping others do the same thing or apprenticing others. Eventually, the process of being Keychain leaders will continue with us. And as Keychain leaders, we're once keyless leaders. And while you will have more youth in a church successfully practicing Keychain leadership, it will also have a healthy amount of maturity. Now, the next thing that Keychain leaders do and what it looks like is that it is real, not relevant. When I teach at the Children's Theater, I don't try to be one of them. I'm not a teenager. The world was different when I was a teenager, even though that was only 7 years ago. And quite frankly, it is disingenuous for me to speak, act, and dress like them. Does that mean I don't relate to them? No. Does that mean I don't try to understand where they are to help them grow? No. What I try and hopefully succeed in doing is leading from a place that is real rather than pretending to be just like them. People look for that authenticity in leaders. Next up, a Keychain leadership is warm, not distant. In order to effectively grow new leaders within a church, the church and its leaders have to be connected and personal. That doesn't mean a leader has to be best friends with the people they mentor, but they need to be approachable and have a genuine care for those keyless leaders trying to move up. The next thing that Keychain leadership looks like is that Keychain leaders know what matters to people, not just others in their position. This one is personal because each person here is in a different position and a different area of leadership. If Pastor Tom thought about only ways other pastors operate, or Jeremy only focused on how worship leaders interact, potential leaders could fall through the cracks. We have to understand and think about the doors we rarely use, because someday a person may need to be handed the key to that door. And if we can't identify it, we won't be able to help them grow. Next up, they entrust and empower others. This is huge. Remember that connection with the church that young people didn't feel? Remember that fear of what happens if this person fails me if I let go? Remember how Jesus looked past the mistakes of Peter and gave him the keys anyways? It leads back to this point of trusting and empowering future leaders. When we trust people to succeed, when they feel empowered through the keys they've been handed, when people know they have a voice and contribution, then they stay, and we all grow better for it. And this isn't just in the church. This can be in all areas of our life. When I directed Julius Caesar just recently, I brought on 2 of the young people from the class I taught, 2 teenagers, to be production assistants who helped me every step of the way. And they rose to the very high expectation I set of them because they were trusted, because I gave them that power to succeed. And finally, Keychain leadership takes the long view, not short-sighted steps. Jesus could have snatched away the keys from Peter after his denial, but he gave Peter a chance. And when he gave Peter that chance, Peter made a mistake. And maybe he wasn't ready now, or maybe a different person was right for the job. Maybe doubting Thomas should have been the right one to choose the entire time. Had any of these been the case, these would have been short-sighted steps. But Jesus knew the long path. He knew Peter would take time to grow into the leader he'd become. Following a Keychain leadership approach can take similar time. It's all about the long view. Now, this is a lot to do and a lot to think about, but a church doing this is growing young and every other way. They will have younger people, older people, families, singles. They'll see their numbers grow at each service. They'll see more people getting involved beyond Sunday morning. In the end, we'll have a multi-generational family feeling of value from all people in the church who want to be included, not just young people. So if we all act like Keychain leaders within the church, we'll have stronger, more effective leaders. Even if you're a regular attender wondering how you can be involved in the process, first, ask for keys. Part of Keychain leadership is a willingness to accept leadership. Second, you already have a key in leadership that you may not realize. Remember that people need to feel connected and need that first door opened often in order to begin the process of growth. You can be that connection to someone new. You can invite people in. We have the key that gets people in this place. Talk with someone new and connect them with more people. Talk with someone you don't know, but who you see often. Maybe you'll find a connection that helps each other grow. Especially during these times when all of us in one way or another are being asked to practice social distancing. That doesn't have to be isolation. We need to connect with each other now more than ever. Reach out to those people in your life because they may need you now more than ever. This connectedness, this togetherness will help us grow. In the end, when we practice Keychain leadership, we strengthen ourselves, our church, and the community of God. And your invitation is that first step. I'd like to end with a quote from the Fuller Youth Institute about growing young. Empowering young people to lead is an everyone wins approach. It is a win for those involved, it is a win for the church community, and it's a win for the future of the church too. Thank you.
Nice job, Dale.
Hey, friends, give it up some love for Dale in the comments section. He just did an awesome job. And you know what? I think we all can probably see him as a pastor in the future at some point. I'm excited, was really excited to sit down with him many months ago now, and he shared that sense of call with me. Hey, there's a couple things we want to do with you today here, friends. One is we'd love to connect with you. And so take some time to fill out that digital connection card. The link is going to be put in the chat section here, and you can fill that out. Take some next steps, and be sure to fill that out and connect with us so that we can connect with you. We also just want you to make sure that you know about all the different ways you can connect in this time of social distancing. The prayers, email there, prayers@sycamorecreekchurch.org. We do still have the prayer team that is praying. And what I've noticed lately is that those prayers come in a little bit more scattered throughout the week. People are really tapping into that and using that. But you can also fill out a prayer request any day through the app. You can send an email any day or on that digital connection card, sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. We've made this link that makes it really easy to remember where to go for worship, sycamorecreekchurch.org/SL worship. That stands for South Lansing Worship. And that'll get you to into the Zoom app that will let you have like the fullest experience. It looks like to me that we did get out of the bandwidth bottleneck on Sunday morning, and our service did stream live to Facebook, so we're excited for that. So you may also be able to engage our worship on Sunday mornings on Facebook. But if you can't, you know that you can get through that link to our worship services. I've had this sense, and it kind of played out last Monday night, that it was true that some people just really needed to connect. And so every Monday night at 7 p.m., we're replacing church in a pub with this all-church Zoom video chat. And again, you'll see the link there, sycamorecreekchurch.org/all-chat. And that's just an opportunity for us to get together and to talk a little bit. We can have literally up to, I think, like 500 people in that discussion. We didn't have anywhere near that last time, but I break y'all into smaller groups, and then we come back for the large group and back into smaller groups. The experience, I think, was really positive, and we had people from all across the nation even who have some Sycamore Creek Church connection, even all the way out from Seattle. As I mentioned earlier, we are still looking to celebrate the resurrection. Spring break in Michigan is never quite what you expect. It may be that there is snow on spring break. I mean, didn't it just snow last week? And as we were sitting here worshiping, I'm looking out my window and it's like raining cats and dogs. So nobody anticipated COVID-19 or the coronavirus or whatever you want to call it. I like to shorten it to C-19. But we've got all kinds of great stuff that's happening. Friday, Good Friday, we are going to have, it's really a adult-themed poetry live stream. I don't mean that it's X-rated or anything. I just mean that it's probably not kid-friendly. We have all kinds of poets from across the state and even nation who are going to be using the 7 last words of Christ as a prompt for a totally original poetry piece. And we're not censoring them. These are folks who may or may not be a Christian, may or may not be spiritual, but our partnership with Misaki Takahashi and the Poetry Room here in Lansing is helping us make that happen. And we didn't want to put any kind of like a muzzle on their creativity or their voice. So we'll get you more information about that on Good Friday. Saturday, there's going to be a spirited service. I believe Pastor Mark from our Potterville campus is going to do that at 1 o'clock. On Sunday morning, I'm probably going to go out to Mount Hope Cemetery by myself and do a little sunrise service, just me and whoever wants to join me through Facebook Live. I'm not telling you to come out with me live because we're supposed to stay away from each other, but I'm going to go on a walk through the cemetery, and I will broadcast it through Facebook Live and do just a little bit of reflection on Sunday morning as the Easter sunrise happens. Sunday afternoon, we'll do our Easter celebration at 1 p.m. And then Monday, April 13th at 7 p.m., we're going to do something crazy. We're not even sure it's going to work, but we're going to do a Zoom karaoke. So be planning your favorite karaoke songs, and you will sing right from your own home, wherever you are. So be looking for the soundtrack to that. You'll have to go to YouTube and share your screen and all that kind of good stuff. So there's lots of opportunities. You'll see the link there for all of those Facebook events. And we also want you to think about the long view here. We've been talking about growing young, and at this year's Reach Summit, which is a yearly conference, the co-author, Jake Mulder, of Growing Young, is going to be our keynote speaker on Friday. There's going to be a Growing Young track for both of those days, Friday and Saturday. So if you'd like to really help our church dive deeper into Growing Young, put this on your calendar. October 23rd and 24th. It's going to be, oh my gosh, now I'm having a brain fart right now about where it's at, but you can go to reachsummit.org and find that information. Open your calendar. This is literally my calendar. Open your calendar and put that in the calendar right now. Put it in the calendar right now. We want to also encourage you to continue your giving. A lot of you give electronically, and I can't tell you how helpful that is. Some of you, though, are regular givers, and you give by a check that you put in the offering. We want to encourage you to either sign up for electronic giving through the app, or you can go to our website and do it that way. Or you can also mail in your checks. Actually, our counters were just there this morning. That is still an essential part of what we do. So our counters were at the building checking the mail. There was quite a bit of offering that people had mailed in. So thank you so much. That helps us continue to connect and to continue our mission. Our mission doesn't stop because there's a pandemic. In fact, it grows. And so we are really dependent at this time on your giving. So thank you so much. Give online, give through the app, or mail those checks in. And that giving is helping us, again, with our mission. There have been all kinds of new opportunities. We've had so many small groups that have met over the last week. Here was our staff meeting through Zoom. This was a high school small group that meets on Sunday nights. This was our Monday night all chat that we had. Some people zoomed in. This was the Reach Summit team that was meeting through Zoom. I was meeting with them this week and continuing on. Another small group. We've been having a lot of extra small groups lately. Gretchen's small group was meeting one week, and then the next week there was a whole different group. And then I led a spiritual retreat for the first time ever, a digital online spiritual retreat. And I'll tell you, it was a really powerful retreat. So I'm super thankful for those 15 people that joined me for that. I think we really came away having encountered God, even though we were doing this whole thing digitally. Now, normally our middle schoolers meet on Sunday morning at our South Lansing campus, but they meet on Sunday evening in our Potterville campus. And the middle schoolers at our Potterville campus have been learning the Apostles' Creed. And while we've all been busy doing this, they had filmed themselves reciting the Apostles' Creed. And while they were social distancing, they put this little piece together. So watch and listen.
I believe. I believe. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. I believe. I believe. I believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who is conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, crucified, died, and was buried. He descended to the dead. On the third day he rose again. He ascended into heaven, and is seated at the right hand of the Father, and will come again to judge the living and the dead. I believe. I believe. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and the life everlasting. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Isn't that
Friends,
awesome?
there we are, growing young right there. So
yeah, we are growing young.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome, friends, that our youth, they did that on their own. And may that be an encouragement for you this week. Hey, friends, we want you to move forward today and to talk with people in your house about this question that's on the screen. What is the first car you drove? We're talking about growing young. The first car I drove was a white 1987 Ford Ranger, but it was basically orange because of all of the rust. Tom, what did you first drive?
1979 two-tone blue Plymouth Horizon that I had to keep the foot on the accelerator and the gas at the same time or it would stall out.
Oh, you guys ask that question to each other and come back next week as we continue this series. We'll likely be online, as we all know. And as you guys are talking about these questions, I'm going to sing a song that's probably helpful for all of us during this shelter in place. All right? We'll see you next week. Think of your fellow man, lend him a helping hand, put a little love in your heart. You see it's getting late, oh please don't hesitate, put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Another day goes by and still those children cry. Put a little love in your heart. I hope when you decide kindness will be your guide. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place, and the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Take a good look around, and if you're feeling down, put a little love in your heart. If you want the world to know, we won't let hatred grow. Put a little love in your heart, and the world will be a better place. And the world will be a better place for you and me. Just wait and see. Put a little love in your heart. Put a little love in your heart. Stay 6 feet away from others. Put a little love in your heart. Sing it one more time. Stay a little love in your heart. Stay at home, please. Put a little love in your heart. Go to the grocery store only for toilet paper. Put a little love in your heart.
Classics.